I'm like fired up this episode, last episode. What's going on with me? I'm just like, we need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Hair X Friends We Got This podcast, where we share our thoughts on the pharmacy profession, experiences as healthcare providers, and explore our identities as two women of color going after it all.
As we share our stories, we hope you laugh, maybe cry, and feel inspired as you get to know us. Because at the end of the day, remember, friends, we got
this.
Yes, we do.
Good morning, everybody. My name is
Good morning. I am Saley.
Are you doing Saley now?
Everyone is very insistent on the fact that I need to say my name for my name and say Saley. So,
all right.
Even at work, I've noticed like way more Saley now than Sally. So people at work are listening to the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hello, Sally's coworkers. Well, now I have to kind of remind myself. So it's Saley now.
Yeah.
We're changing it.
We're changing it.
Okay. Perfect.
Public service announcement.
Oh gosh. Okay.
The people who've known me 20 years, they're like, who? Girl, bye.
You just send them the episode and then you don't have to even explain it. There you go.
Refer to the link below.
Yeah.
Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
And share, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just telling you though that I really liked your shirt from our last episode and we need more bright colors.
I know. I need to do more. I'm definitely a dark color type of girl. Like when I see bright color shirts when I'm shopping, the first thought in my head is, yeah, how am I going to match that up? Like, right?
Oh, that's very true.
But like,
that's your personality though, I feel like.
Really? Oh,
yeah. I can't see you in muted colors. Come on. You got such a big personality.
So excited. Okay. You're just trying to con me into buying more bright shirts.
Maybe.
Girl, I see you. I see you.
I know.
Working. It's really working. Like, it's black. Like, I can't tell you how many black pants I have. Like, so many.
It's just so easy.
When I see pants with like patterns and I'm like, oh yeah, that would pair up a blue shirt, a blush shirt, a plum shirt. And then it ends up being the pants that gets parked forever. I'm like, oh, all those colors that this would complement well, I don't own.
Yeah. So I have a question. I've been meaning to ask you this for a while, and I think you had sent this to me like a while ago about being introverts and extroverts.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember that post at all?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Where do you put yourself in that category of extroverts and introverts?
To everybody, they'll say you're definitely an extrovert.
That's what I think.
I think so, but I really love alone time too. Like when I did the 16 personalities test, I don't know if you've ever done it.
I think I have. Oh my God. Which one are you? What if we're the same? I don't know.
Protagonist. Mine's protagonist. Yeah. And the reason why I love that test, look at it. The reason why I love that test so much, it's because it has it's grown with me. My extrovert percent when I was fresh out of pharmacy school, when I first took this before residency interviews, I was like 80% extrovert. And now it's saying 60%.
See, those tests do change, though.
They change.
You kind of have to continuously take the test because it's not, you're not saying the same,
the same. And I think people take it and they don't revisit it for a really long time. Every year.
I feel like maybe I'm also a protagonist. I think. I don't remember. There's so many of them.
It sounds like, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, you know what? Okay, so for you, a protagonist is extroverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging.
Yeah.
I think that I'm not judging, so I'm the opposite in the last one.
Okay, I'm judging. And the judging has, I think, increased over time. I know. Because I've become way more like holding others to my standard of stuff. Like every time I read like that judging, I'm kind of like, but I don't think I want to change that though. Like I really
What do
like
you judge people on? Like what do you
I think that it's more of like expectations. Like I think that I expect everyone around me to be as passionate and as hardworking, as given, as compassionate as I am. And the moment that I kind of assess or realize that everybody doesn't align the same way, I struggle with that because to me it's kind of just like what
You know, I struggle with that too. I didn't
I
that's a
struggle with
that's
it
a
a lot.
that's a really interesting thing, and I always kind of I try to think about like whether that's reasonable for me to always expect people to be as passionate as me or want to do the right thing as much as me. Not to
Mm,
say that I'm like this creature that's, you know, above everything else,
infallible.
but
Yeah.
sometimes I think the thing that I judge people most on, and it's not even judging, is the frustration
Hmm.
of like personal growth. I think is
Yes.
somebody is not growing, if they've been
Yeah.
stuck for a really long time and they don't want to do anything to change that, to fix that, and yet they're still telling you like, you know, their problems, or that you see the problems in their life and
Thank
it's the
you.
same ones, but like you don't think that they're working on
Hmm.
changing themselves at all. I get frustrated at that.
No one's coming to save you. I think we just talked about that in the last episode.
Yeah.
That self-realization for me has made it hard to not judge in a lot of way, because but also I accredit that realization to the early childhood, early life trauma I had as
Mm.
a uniquely abled person with big dreams. I had to realize like nobody was going to make my dreams of college education come true. If I wanted to go to college, I still, despite going to dialysis 3 days a week, I had to
Mm.
wait to make the grades. That ownership, like taking accountability, I think is one of the things I struggle with when I don't see that in other people.
Yeah, I struggle with that.
Your situation sucks. I'm not going to argue the situation with you, but I also just think that the power you have in changing the situation, if possible, or your response to the situation, I think when people underestimate that power in themselves, that's when
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem because I'm like, nobody's going to argue with you that what you're going through sucks. Like, this is bad. This is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how I would respond if I was in this situation, but I'm also really sure about certain things, like talking about the 5 things we admire about ourselves in our Trust Yourself challenge, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The thing I admire about myself is just my ability to gain perspective very quickly.
Mm.
Like I don't spend too much time on, oh my God, it's all crumbling around me. I'm quickly pivoting into, if this wall is collapsing, how do I hold this wall up at all cost
Mm.
type thing. And that's made me very judgy, I have to admit. I
Yeah, but I kind of want to be more empathetic though to people
have
who
to.
are struggling and
Yes.
maybe they're just not, you know, right where they need to be yet. And
Yeah.
I want to cheer them on as much as I'm frustrated that they haven't really, you know, like if you have some sort of mental health issues, like I wish that
Yes.
people would want to get mental help for that.
Yes.
But at the same time, I want to be empathetic to it, but
Yeah.
with
And give
the proper
grace.
boundaries. Give
And give
grace. I think
grace.
giving grace. I think I need to give
Yes.
more grace,
Yes.
and but still hold the boundaries of like I cannot be holding your hand like all the
Yeah.
time. I cannot be this major support. Like you have to do this yourself. And so,
This,
yeah, it's a balance that I'm still working on, but I try not, yeah, I try to every time I'm like, ooh, I feel like I'm being too judgy. And I feel like
yeah.
when I lose that empathy for people, that's when I have to like hold myself back and be like, no, I want to understand and I
Yeah.
need to work on being more empathetic because at the core of who I am, I want to be an empathetic person. I feel like if I'm losing that, then I'm not being the person I want to be. So,
100%. And
yeah.
all these things we are talking about right here, like, and I know that like we're loosely touching on all these things. These are really complex issues for any person. whether you're dealing with it in family, you're dealing with it in friendship, or you're dealing with it in relationship, you're dealing with it at work. It's very complex because the person, the Thu and the boundaries and the latitude that you have for when you're facing these things in family versus if it's someone at work, it's like, this is too far. It's like they may get an inch, but someone in your family may get 5 miles.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's very true.
It's different.
It's different.
It's
Yeah.
different. It's different. It's complicated. And I think that's where giving ourselves grace too is important, which is something I think I want to be better at. I think that just recognizing that I've been fighting a really long time. I'm tired. Today, I don't want to do it. Today,
but
I don't feel like doing
it. The reason why I bring this up too, and it's kind of veered off a little bit, we'll get back to the introvert extrovert thing, maybe another episode, but I struggle a lot with like precepting students because of that empathy aspect of me. Sometimes it's hard for me to put myself in their shoes of like, yeah, this is hard. This is new. You're brand new at this. Of course, you're not gonna do all the right things all the time. I struggle with it a lot. If you talk to a lot of the people who know me in real life, they're like, "Ooh, you must be a tough preceptor," and in a way, I am. But like, not as in like I'm not trying to beat anybody down, but I do have like these expectations that you're gonna gain knowledge from my rotations, and so I focus on that so much that I think I lose that grace and empathy aspect. But it's really hard for me. Like it's really hard. And I've always wanted to be like just a more empathetic preceptor, just like a kinder preceptor, but at the same time it's that balance of like, but I need you to learn this, but I need you to get this right. And so it's really tough for me.
Is that because what I'm hearing you say right now sounds a little bit like you being overly critical of your precepting style? Like, what have students what have their lives?
But I've had like, it's really interesting because I have students who absolutely loved me and they email me afterwards and like, really enjoy your rotation. But then I also have some really, really horrible reviews.
Yeah.
To the point where I like one time I saw it and I tore it up and I threw it away and then I taped it back up together. And then I showed it to my supervisor at the time because I'm like, this is a really harsh comment. Like, can you read this with me and like see what's going on? But like,
oh, look at that. I think that
can you imagine me like taping it back up though?
No, but I think that speaks volume because even in what was difficult to read, you're recognizing that there's something to learn. And if that exists in here, I don't want to miss it. That's a really powerful message too. Because
but it's still
my
tough.
thing with it's tough.
Oh, it's so tough. I look at people like you really enjoy teaching, and I feel like you connect with students, and your precepting style is probably just really fitting with a lot of students. And I look at people like you guys, and I'm like, how do you do that? Because I can't. For some reason, it's really hard for me to get there, and I don't want to like be too hard on myself, right? But at the same time,
I'm like, you're being really critical of yourself right now. Like
it burns me out too, I think.
That's true.
When I feel like I need to,
it's not,
there's so many shoes that I have to fill. It's like I have to be your cheerleader, but then I also have to be like holding you accountable.
Yeah.
For your own learning. It's
for
so
your
hard.
own good. It's
for your
really
own good.
Hard. It's really hard. Through like what you're talking about is really important. Like, I think for me, over the years, what I have done and have done consistently, I think I've been lucky. I'm going to say that because there's no way that I haven't made big adjustments all these years and it continues to work, right? But what I do is right from day one, I set the tone. And so I have already freaked you out from the first week that this is going to be hard. I want you in your mind, I want you to prepare yourself that like, you will likely not leave here every day at 4:30 because guess what? I don't. I will likely send you back into the hospital to go re-interview the patient if you miss things. So I lay all these things out for them to prepare them and freak them out at the top. So it's like by week 3, and when I tell them, go talk to this patient and we'll revisit, and they're like, oh, by myself? I'm like, yeah, you can go today and then we'll circle back. And so they're in their mind, they already know if I'm not thorough, she's going to have me walk back to the hospital to go do this again.
I think that's a good advice for anybody who's listening that's like struggling with precepting. Like really maybe put the worst case scenarios first ahead, and then as the student goes through the rotation, they're like, actually, this is not as bad as I thought. Or like, yeah, they're like, oh, this is actually amazing. But I think one reason why I do struggle with something like this is like nowadays, I think students and learners require a lot more reassurance, positive feedback. Whereas when I went through school, and mind you, let me remind you that I had a father who has a PhD in quantum physics who taught me calculus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a man who I tell him, based on my calculator or based on what I'm taught in school, this problem cannot be solved. And he's like, oh, no, you can solve this problem.
Let's try again.
And then he comes up with a crazy answer to this problem. It's like 5.6978, you know, like this crazy fraction. He's like, obviously it can be solved. And I'm like, okay, I don't know.
It's the obviously for me, like, no, obviously for you, sir.
Yeah, it's obvious because for you. I don't understand how you see all these numbers and know exactly how to solve it. I mean,
what a gift.
I'm telling you, it's a good mind shift. Yeah, it's a good
mind shift. If you come from a home like that, right? Like, because my mom was also like mathematics and physics professor, right? Coming from a home like that to going into like a learning environment where you're allowed to use a calculator, I was like, school in America is so easy. Because in my house, you have to do it all in your head.
That's very true.
Right?
Like, that's very true. Yeah.
I'm going to get A's in all these math courses. Right?
Yeah. I mean, imagine your dad being your tutor for math. Of course, I'm going to like do well. Of course, I'm going to just like breeze through. But what I mean to say too is that like, because he's such a strict tutor and teacher, that I'm just used to that. So then even in college, I was like, oh, that class is really hard. I want to take that class. Like I was not wanting like an easy way out. I was like, oh, that professor's been teaching for a long time. He has good reviews and he's really tough. Oh yeah, here we go. And even on my rotations, I was like that ICU rotation that I was telling you about, all of my classmates were like, oh, he's really tough or whatever. And I was like, I did really well on that rotation. I think for me, that's just my learning style. It's like somebody really pushing me, like push, and like challenge me constantly. And that's how I get better. And that's how I learn. So when I teach, I think that's all I want to do is just push people. Like, no, you can be better. No, you can do more. And then people are like, you're too much. I can't do this. and then they have a meltdown of some form, you know? And so I have to learn how to balance it. But yeah, that's why I'm struggling with that, because I'm like, I want to be better. But anyways,
you have no idea the power and the fact that you are cognizant that you are pushing too hard at times, or you may have to readjust or realign or recalibrate. I've had to do that as well. I've had, like, when students cry on rotation with me, I start to panic a little bit, but I stay grounded because I know like what I am pushing for you to master. There are certain things, like for me as a preceptor, I'm okay with you having good command of, because maybe there are other rotations coming where I know somebody's going to make sure that you have mastery of it. Like if you're on my AmCare rotation and you're telling me patient was discharged from the ICU, and I ask you about what was their ICU stay course, and you're like, and I'm like, okay, well, that's part of transitions. Like, that's part of transitions. Like, you kind of have to know what they've been through before, like, so that you understand how they're presenting to you now and all the plans you. So I would teach you loosely about transition, step down from ICU, but I'm not going to press you on understanding the ICU course. What were the pressers? What were the targets?
Oh, yeah.
I won't press on that. I'm comfortable with you having good command, but not mastery. But when you're in transitions with me in AmCare And we're going through counseling points and we're going through mechanism of action. I'm asking you about basic pharmacology. I'm asking you about drug interactions, how you review, how do you make decisions? Or I'm asking you to write a thorough patient encounter note. And we're going over, oh, no. That is, you must master that, because you can't go to the next AmCare rotation and that's average. Like, that's a bad reflection on me. And we can't have that. We can't. I take that very personally. We can't have that. You will do the note over and over until it is right, because I know that this is going to serve you later, even if you can't see it now.
Jeez.
And
Maybe I'm not as tough as I think.
No, you're not. That's what I tell you. Because I tell people, like, when I would be in RAC meetings, I would tell people, I was like, I think I'm a tough preceptor. It could be like what I've been through as well. But like the students, they email me and they're like, I had a residency interview and heart failure came up. I blew them away. I just wanted to tell you that what you're doing works. I was like,
oh my gosh. Okay. Well, none of my students ever do that. But the reason why we're talking about precepting as well, it goes into what we're going to be focusing on today in this episode. And it's about pharmacy school and the pharmacy profession in the eyes of new students or potential students. And kind of dissecting a little bit of what's going on in that realm. And it's really interesting because both episodes in March has been very much a reflection on this profession and kind of understanding what's going on, and for us to put our opinions on it, to really understand what the future may look like as well.
And it's bright. It's bright. I don't know who you've been talking to and what picture they've been painting for you.
Oh, interesting.
It's bright.
You think it's bright? I don't know if I agree necessarily.
Really? I think
so. We can have our debate today.
We may. I think it's bright. I think my perspective on why I think it's bright, it's because I think it is still a profession of the self-motivated person. But if you're getting into it hoping that there's going to be this perfectly laid out path forward for you, you may struggle, because when you come to the realization that that traditional role isn't necessarily the most fulfilling for you, it could be jarring. It could be really disappointing. It could be difficult to move on. And I think that to me is what makes it bright, that people who are visionaries, dreamers, self-motivating, self-actualizing, they're still able to find fulfillment and success in it.
But see, what is the percentage of the people that you're describing? How much of that is in the profession as we speak? And I say that because of the different stories that I've heard about getting into pharmacy school and how pretty much it's so easy to get into pharmacy school now that you don't even need the PCAT, for example, to get in anymore. Or you are applying to be a dentist, you're applying to be a physician or whatever it might be, and you don't get into those positions, and then pharmacy school will reach out and say, hey, we've got a seat open, do you want to join? And so you're inviting people who have no interest at all in the profession to then go into the profession completely shocked that, like, they're basically like unsure of what they've gotten themselves into. I've received a lot of messages too from people who say, I got a letter to invite me to be a part of class of whatever, and I don't know if I should. Should I? Is pharmacy great? And the caliber of students has really diminished because of this practice, because of this. I mean, I don't know. It's a conflict of interest for the profession, I think.
I agree.
Pharmacy schools inviting people in to join, their class based on just the fact that they need to fill a seat is, it's not great for the profession.
It's not great for the profession.
So that's why when you say the future is bright, I say it could be bright, but yet this reality that we're living in right now doesn't give me much hope.
So I would restate it as, for the person who is going to pharmacy school because they want to become a pharmacist and they are self-motivated and self-actualizing, it's bright. But this this other group that we are letting in, it's concerning. I think for me as an educator, it's concerning because I want to believe that the student, right? Back to the precepting part. And that's why I'm saying you're being overly critical of yourself too. I think when you have a student who is genuinely interested in where they are and what they are meant to gain from where they are, that their energy, their outlook, their attitude about learning is different. But what you're describing, where we are just trying to fill seats for no other reason but for financial reasons, because empty pharmacy school seats don't make any money. It's a business, right? So if we are just giving and pretty much offering people admission because they couldn't get where they were trying to get, those students show up to rotation. It's just some place that they were told they need to spend 8 hours. It's just some place.
And I think those are the students that I struggle with a lot. Is that, again, going back to even the beginning of our freaking conversation. It's a full circle, everybody. But I struggle when people don't have passion in their life.
Yeah.
I struggle with people who are just there to do what they need to do and get out. And I'm like, I can't relate to you. I want to relate to you, but how do you live like that?
I know.
And so when a student is just doing the thing that I tell them to do, and that is it.
Yeah.
It burns me out because I cannot be your cheerleader if you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
And it burns me out time after time to the point where I actually dread having to precept now. I feel bad saying that. But I don't think I'm alone in this.
No.
A lot of us dread having to precept students because of how much effort and work it takes to motivate somebody, and they're not even motivating themselves. But I also feel like, yeah. So that's where I'm at right now.
It's true.
It's a struggle. So in terms of academia, when I did my PGY2, it was actually a geriatric and academia residency. And actually, a lot of the residents that were before me, they all go into academia right after PGY2. So they all go into academia to teach, to do whatever it is that people in academia do.
I can tell you.
Whatever it is.
Whatever happens over there, they go to do
whatever
that.
happens over there. But I actually had the opportunity to do that as well, just because there is kind of a pipeline there. But when I was graduating, it was 2015, 2016. I saw the writing on the wall that academia was, first of all, probably not the right fit for me, but also just the fact that what does the job security look like for people in academia if you can't, if you're struggling to fill seats? And for me, that was a moment where I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to academia. I'm going into acute care, which is something that I feel more passionate about anyways, but I know stability of that job is probably much higher than academia, because at that point I was already seeing just a lot of things that I didn't agree with. Like, a lot of the people that I did my residency with, they completed their PGY1 and then went straight into academia afterwards. And for me, that is such a strange realization that some of the professors might just be a couple years older than their own students, might only have 1 or 2 additional years of experience than their own students. And that to me is a conflict of interest that I'm not sure if I can like stand behind. So yeah, give us your opinion on that.
Academia, they are required to have an active practice side by side to their academic obligation. So their time is actually split into percentages. It depends on what the hospital or the community pharmacy and the College of Pharmacy agree on. For some professors, their agreement with the College of Pharmacy is 50% of their time is spent in their AmCare practice and 50% is spent in academia, or 60, 40, 70, 30. But the hospital and the College of Pharmacy basically get together and agree on a split percentage of some sort. And that faculty's salary and how they're paid is all decided upon that. So when they grab these PGY2 graduates, they're still practicing pharmacists. They have to be in order to teach pharmacy practice. They're not just
not even PGY2s, they're PGY1s.
Trains. I know, but they're not like, they have a department chair. There's a department chair whose job it is to make sure that people with appropriate skill levels are teaching all of the different courses.
Yeah.
So the person who's PGY1 trained, that is an AmCare pharmacist in a medication management clinic, for example, where what happens there is chronic disease management, hypertension, they won't be asked to teach ID. Like they won't be asked to teach critical care topics and things like that. The MICU pharmacist and the SICU pharmacist, those people will be able to teach
but
that.
You're also talking about schools that have been well established. I think that you have connections with schools that have been around for a very long time. I'm talking about schools that are like 2 years old and then hiring brand new PGY1. And I'm like, I don't know, because when I went to pharmacy school, my professors were old as like dinosaurs. And it's good and it's bad.
We
it's good
have
and it's bad.
young pharmacists that are, I have to defend, because I'm part of that group, okay? I'm part of the PGY1 trained.
No, but you've had 6 years of experience, though.
That's true.
You've had,
that's true.
I don't know how many years, but you've been in pharmacy for a decade, and then you had experience prior. So you're not part of that group at all, Saley. You're not.
It's there. I think when you have a good department chair, that chair's job, I think primarily is to make sure that they have appropriate skill level people teaching these different, like I, for example, am never going to step up to say, let me teach solid tumors in the oncology module. Hemolytic malignancies, perhaps I can teach it because I had a rotation as a resident in that, plus the bone marrow transplant part. And it was rather very robust. Like I feel like I have good command where I can review the guidelines and put a curriculum together to meet course objectives. But definitely things like that, hemolytic malignancies, I want somebody who is a bone marrow transplant pharmacist or a heme malignancy pharmacist teaching that. And many of the schools, they will actually put out a call to external adjunct to see if someone who specializes in something can teach that. The skill level, back to your point, is a concern, I think, or would be a concern, I think.
But I mean, like, what is the difference? Well, I mean, I think this might be a little bit too harsh, but you know, if you barely have any years of experience yourself under your belt and you're teaching, let's say you're teaching hypertension and you don't have the practice experience to teach hypertension, what is the difference between you reading the guidelines and a student being able to read the guidelines themselves and then being able to just like summarize what they've read? Because practice experience wise is not far off. Like you have 1 year of residency. So, you know, that's a couple of years, I guess, of total experience. But sometimes residency don't do a good job anyways of giving you enough hour of practice either. So there's so much conflicts. So then when I'm thinking about, you know, a brand new school, like a year or 2 years, and they can only hire people who are interested in them, which are brand new practitioners. What is the quality of that school? Like, I'm just literally shocked. And again, when I was in pharmacy school, a lot of my professors are like experts in their field. They're not even dinosaurs, but they are like, they've established themselves. They've published articles. They've done all of these things that I'm like, I trust what you have to say. People trust you. Providers trust you. I trust that I'm getting really great education. But if you're going to one of the newer schools, and I'm just saying as somebody who's looking from the outside looking in, right? I'm just trying to make, you know, observations here. I'm not calling anybody out, but I'm just saying, like, I think it's reasonable to question the quality of
100%. It's reasonable, it's valid, and it definitely warrants interrogation. As a person who went to a newer pharmacy school, my pharmacy school was we're the 5th graduating class from my pharmacy school. The people that we had teaching at our schools were all people that had been pharmacists for a really, really long time. I don't know how the school did that, but we were lucky that we rarely had like what you're describing, 1 or 2 years. Because I think like this is to the point that the point you're raising is so valid. I don't know that schools and colleges of pharmacy are also like jumping at the gun to hire these fresh off the PGY1 trail pharmacists either.
Yeah.
Because our school is in such a rural area, hiring is so difficult, but they somehow managed to secure people that had academia experience elsewhere that came in to build this new program in this grossly medically underserved area of Maryland. So there were a lot of really great people that were coming to teach us there. Sometimes we'll get the resident at the community hospital down the street come in and teach us, part of their residency obligation. But the preceptor was always there to answer any question, like when we got in depth and stuff like that. This goes back to like the whole College of Pharmacy and accreditation process, right? I would think that the accreditation council, they visit these colleges of pharmacies ever so often. I would wonder, do they check for that? Do they check to see the number of or the proportion of how many faculty are here that are engaging in research, publication, area of expertise, match up for what they teach, right? And how many of the people that are PGY1 or that are newer pharmacists, what is the College of Pharmacy's plan to mentoring those people and building their experience? Because ASHP asks for that for preceptorship of residents. Like you have to be like a preceptor in training first before you're a full preceptor of a resident. And when they come for site accreditation, they look for like the plan of how did Saleh go from being a preceptor in training to a full preceptor where she was trusted to have residents fully. So I think it's worth like finding out. I just don't know. But I know that what you're saying happens because I have plenty of friends that were fresh off the PGY1 trail and they were now assistant professors at really big institutions.
Yeah. I mean, the big institution, I think, is a little bit more, I would trust that process even more because you would imagine something that's more established, having the ability to train these new people, but a school that's really young. And the reason why I'm bringing all of it up is just in general the question about quality of pharmacists these days, quality of the people who are going into pharmacy schools, and just how does that affect the profession? Is it rotting us from the inside if you are not putting out quality people? And I say that too. It's the struggle of having to precept people who don't give any 2 cents about the profession, and they're just in here to whatever. And then as they go through their career, they're like, actually, I don't even want to be a pharmacist. So they leave and they then talk about the profession in a very negative light. I mean, you're talking about the quality and the process of this profession. Just yeah, like, and then you're talking about the enrollment rates being low. It's like, it's a freaking, it's like a mechanism of like it all feeds into each other because now
negative feedback loop. It's a negative feedback loop.
Negative feedback.
I couldn't help myself. You did it.
So
you
cheesy.
set me up for it's your fault. You started describing it. I'm like, that kind of sounds like a negative feedback loop. Like,
yeah, but that's exactly what it is because it's just one thing after another. It snowball into the fact now that we have, and here's the article. It says pharmacy school applications down 36% since 2012. 36%. That's more than a third. So you imagine it just all like hitting now at once of just like literally everything that can go wrong, right? It's just hitting at once. And it's shocking to me that, I mean, finally it's catching up, but now eventually we may have, a shortage in pharmacists, like a real shortage.
So this past mid-year, I believe because I mean, I have friends that and mentors that are deans of colleges of pharmacy or whatever.
Ooh, fancy.
There was like it's just because they know I care about all this inside conversation. So like when I ask them, so what are the deans talking about these days?
So is pharmacy gonna survive?
It's gonna survive. Like, what is the conversation in these deans? Like, I met up with one and she's like, yeah, I have a dean's thing, like a college of pharmacy dean thing to go to. I can't go. So I was like, what do you guys talk about there? World domination?
That's
She's
so
like,
funny.
yeah. I'm like, what are you talking about there? At those things, world domination. She's like, actually, there's some encouraging information that they're discussing because this drop in enrollment, 2010, right? We're about 2024. There's going to be, or 2012, in about 10 to 15 years, we will fall into a shortage because all of these people are going to start occupying positions while the people we met will be getting ready to retire out. And we won't have a generation coming up for our exit.
Oh no, I'm gonna have to work in this profession.
We're gonna be like this, 60 something, 70 something. It's coming.
Send over the metformin because metformin will still be used at that point.
Metformin
will last forever.
It's never going away. It's never going away. It's gonna outdate all of us, right?
Yeah.
But I thought that was so interesting. So I wanted to ask her to explain like what she's saying. She's like, oh, like it's a whole idea. And so the deans and colleges of pharmacy right now, people are basically foreshadowing this surge that is going, this shortage that is going to come. And so colleges of pharmacies that have undergraduate programs are going to start promoting improvement of diversity, targeting HBCUs to increase and get more people of color to enter the profession and all these different things.
But is that the actual problem, that the reason why they're not getting all these people enrolling is because they're not promoting the pharmacy programs and undergrad?
That's not
because
it.
They could do that, but if you're still having people looking on the internet and seeing all these Reddit forums about how bad pharmacy is, do you actually think that that's going to make a difference?
No.
I just think that like if we are actually worried about the quality of the pharmacy school, then we have to consider the fact that pharmacy schools now need to be involved, very actively involved, and maybe they are and I'm just not seeing it, involved in the pharmacy profession itself, educating students on what healthcare is. Like when I was in pharmacy school, I was never taught to what it's like to actually be a person navigating through the corporate structure of healthcare. I didn't even understand CMS. Like I didn't even know what that was. Like, are you effing kidding me that I went through pharmacy school and then when I got out and practiced, now I'm being asked to fill all of these requirements of like the Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services. Like, are you insane? How come I was never taught that?
Well, they don't teach us much about. So here's the thing. There's a whole bunch of emphasis on the practice of pharmacy, but the business of pharmacy is not really taught. The business of pharmacy isn't really taught. Even those
that's where they fall short. Is people go into the profession shocked and horrified that this is what they're in now. Like they're spending half of the time with the clinical stuff and the patient care. The other half, they're having to deal with insurance and all of these other rankings that they have to meet. And now they're like, this is not what I signed up for.
I know, but Thu, like we've talked about this here already, right? Like this is a profession that is how old? Tradition is everything. What do we traditionally do? I know. What do we traditionally do? Traditionally, we take care of people. And what we haven't figured out and reconciled yet for our learners is that part of taking care of people means when you're designing that pharmaceutical care plan, the patient's ability to afford that care should be considered. And if you don't know the business of pharmacy and they're like, I have Medicaid, and that doesn't translate into anything to you. Like, what does that mean?
Horrible though.
It's horrible.
It's horrible. I don't understand how you can go hundreds of years and not change that practice. I don't understand why I am the one that's saying this. Why am I the one that's saying this on a podcast?
Hundreds of years. Oh man.
Why hasn't anybody changed that? I was in school 10 years ago.
I
10
know.
years ago.
It's still not.
Why was I not taught
I
the
know.
business of pharmacy? Why was that made a prerequisite to be in pharmacy school? Is I had to take Econ 101. That was it.
Oh
Have me
yeah.
take more business classes, like, but healthcare administrative types of classes, so I can have an idea of what I'm getting myself into, because the majority of what I deal with, the frustration that I deal with, is not with patient care. I can teach myself that stuff. I can do a lot of that stuff, but like the understanding of the deep rooted issues in healthcare and all of that, I had to learn from just observation through the last 10 years. And
Trial
how
and
am I
error.
supposed to help find solutions to fix that if I don't understand what's actually going on?
Yeah. So
it gets me frustrated though.
I built an entire clinic, an entire service line in my clinic around this, right? Like all of the work I've done, I did in med management and patient access and creating a technician workflow was about this. Many of my colleagues, what is her actual job? Like, what does she actually do? She's constantly just talking about access, patient. What does she actually do? Right?
What?
Actual pharmacists.
Are you kidding?
No.
This is why the profession is rotting from the inside.
Yeah. Actual pharmacists didn't understand why me, as an AmCare pharmacist, would be so obsessed and fixated on developing a process around making sure that I didn't have patients that I was developing very appropriate pharmaceutical care plans for coming back to the ED because they can't afford their copay. Like they couldn't understand why I was obsessed with fixing that problem, because to me in AmCare, it's all about preventable medication related issues. Like I'm constantly looking at how this plan translates into the real world so that it doesn't backfire. So if my patient keeps showing up and they don't have the copay, that's my problem.
I'm
but
so frustrated.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how much fight, how many meetings, how much data collection, how much effort went into having to substantiate that you guys need to give me a technician who is dedicated to solving this for you.
I literally cannot do this.
Like, please stop.
I'm having a panic moment of just realizing, like, I just don't get it. This is why it frustrates me so much, Saley. Sorry, I keep saying Sally.
It's fine. Please stop like putting that extra pressure on yourself that it has to be one or the other.
I will figure it out. I will figure it out. But when I'm so upset,
fired up.
I can't think. I've been upset. Oh my gosh, I'm like fired up this episode, last episode. What's going on with me? I'm just like, we need to figure this out.
Yeah. And now we are expecting it.
This is what we were saying again from the beginning, is that I get frustrated when people just don't. It's like, why can't you guys see 6 steps ahead of the game? Like, why are you still stuck like in 2010? Why are you not like seeing what else we could do? Like, why? I don't understand what's going on, because the idea that they're questioning you about patient access to medications, why wouldn't that make sense? Like, I don't understand. But this is what I struggle with at my work too, is like, I have this big passion for transition of care because I see a lot of errors that happens when you go home, and I'm like, why isn't anybody helping patients when they get home, like those first few days of home and they're looking at their medications? They're like, I have no idea what the doctor said to me. And when I was working to develop a transition of care service at my hospital, it was just like, how many people did you do discharge counseling on? Discharge counseling this, discharge counseling that. And I was like, do you understand transition of care is a process that you need to fix, and it's not about discharge counseling. Stop with the discharge counseling. Have a intern do the discharge counseling. Let me try to like actually fix the process. I wrote a LinkedIn, I had a LinkedIn post about a Pixaban and people not being able to afford a Pixaban post discharge.
I commented on it.
That post went viral, right? And I'm talking about thousands of engagement and hundreds of thousands. And the reason why it's hundreds of thousands is because it is so relevant.
Yes.
And yet I can't even get the people that I work with to be on board with me to help me set an actual process and order. This is why it's so frustrating to be in pharmacy sometimes, because I'm like, you guys are so far behind. Get with the program. Like, I'm so frustrated.
You don't even know the half of like, it's like I talk about the success I had in that practice because it's easier to hold on to that than to talk about the resistance and the sheer force of the resistance I had to push against year after year. And what's sad? Let me set you on fire real quick. What's sad
I'm already on fire.
No. Let me set you on fire. The resistance that I was pushing against in order to improve access for my patients.
Wait, no, I know what you're going to say.
It was not external. It was not external. My department leaders, the people who my success made them look good.
Oh, yeah.
They were the source of the resistance. You understand what I'm saying to you? Like it's
what's so wild? You know what's also really wild is it's probably just the resistance within the pharmacy department. If you brought this idea to like the CMO or like the medical staff, they would be like, "Oh yeah, let's do that." Like there would be very little resistance, and I don't know why.
Guess how I got the tech position? Guess how we got the tech positions approved? By going to the hospital administration and immediately pitching it to them.
God.
But the resistance for any type of anything,
I am going to have a panic attack right now.
Anything. The resistance is always internal, which is wild to me because I don't get up every day to come here because it's somewhere to spend time. I get up to come here every day because I feel like I have a responsibility to be doing what is meaningful to advance health in my community. That's why I show up.
I can't.
So when all of the unnecessary barriers are put in front of me, number one, you don't know me. I don't give up easily. That's what that tells me. But also, number two, you're not making any sense. The successes I had in that program wasn't because I was like wildly supported and or rewarded for those successes. It's because I genuinely believe that what I was doing made a difference and I didn't give up on it and pushed forward.
Yeah. I mean, I remember a transition of care program that I implemented. It was the diabetes education. Our diabetes educator just left and no one knew who else was there to do the diabetes education. And so I said, hey, let pharmacy and the nutrition group, let's get together and collaborate in creating some sort of diabetes education because our diabetes educator left. I pitched that probably in November. And then it was by April that she was like, hey, can you like, let's implement that. Let's pilot that. Gosh. You know, and the fact that I talked to the nurses on my floor and they're like, yeah, I'm supposed to have a diabetes educator come talk to a patient before they leave, but who's coming? Like nobody's coming.
Where are they?
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I will talk. And so that's how I started pitching that. But one thing, lastly, before we move back to pharmacy school, is that because of the resistance, though, I think that has helped you and I to understand what it takes to start and implement a new service line and how to persuade people. So I think in a way it does help us become stronger, but it's frustrating. It is very frustrating.
It's very frustrating, especially, and I think, and it sounds cliche, but what rescued me and what saved me and kept me sane, motivated, engaged, and all of that while I was in that role is clarity of purpose. I had it. It wasn't fuzzy. It was clear as day. I knew that what I was working on absolutely had the potential to improve outcomes for my patients. Like the people that I was trying to help, I was clear in what I was trying to do to improve outcome for those people. And what I also knew was that I have yet to encounter a mountain that I couldn't move. This wasn't going to be the first one.
Yes.
This wasn't going to be the first one. Whether you supported me in it or not, you would hear about my success in it. Whether you acknowledge that I was instrumental in making lasting impact at this institution or not. I wasn't in it for that. I was in it because I knew that the people who live in this community absolutely deserve access to all of these tier 1 drugs, and they could get it. the programs and services were in place. It's just no one was taking responsibility for plugging them in with those resources. And I was like, we can do this. Like, we can do this, and it would improve life for everyone, including our patients.
I mean, I love that you said that about clarity and purpose, because going back to pharmacy school, like people who go into pharmacy school and in healthcare, you have to have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. What is your clarity and what is your purpose? Because you can't, I don't know what the motivation is for most people who are getting into pharmacy school, but a lot of the people that I know who are also Asians, it's probably their parents telling them that it's an option, that it's a safe, secure option. But just know that just because it's safe and secure does not mean that you're going to be happy in it.
Exactly.
Because you have to have the passion to push this profession forward, knowing what you and I just talk about right now, knowing the resistance that come from being in a very old and outdated profession sometimes. We need new blood. We need innovation. It's not even like, oh, we should have it. No, it's like, it is time. You cannot be doing the same thing over and over again and then complain about the low enrollment rate and the fact that you're going to respond to that by promoting our profession to undergraduates. Undergraduates know about pharmacists. They just maybe don't understand the profession, but they know it, and they can do their own research. Trust me on that.
They can. There are too many mediums for them to. The part of why I am in the space of advocating, particularly for Black and brown people to get into healthcare, it's because the shortages in physicians and nurses and pharmacists and PAs and nurse practitioners, it affects us in a way that it doesn't affect everyone else. We are the ones in the rural areas that are traveling the furthest. We are the ones that, even if we live near an academic medical center, getting an appointment in that academic medical center, finding a provider that is culturally competent to give us the healthcare that we deserve, we are the people and the ones that are struggling the most with finding that. My passion for encouraging people of color and that look like me to get into healthcare, that is it. Because I think that I want people who look like me to get culturally competent healthcare the way that they deserve, and have that be quality and equitable no matter where they live. It's why I get involved with things like that, like going to HBCUs and doing things like that to promote pharmacy. But when I speak to them and promote pharmacy, that's the angle I take. Do your own research. This is not, if you think you're going to become a pharmacist because it's a well-paying job, there are plenty of other well-paying jobs for less the stress. Like, I just I want to be clear, and being on the record with anyone I speak to about that. If it's about the money, there are other ways to make the money for a fraction of the debt. And for a fraction, we
didn't even touch on the debt part. Right? And I feel like last time I was like, we're cutting us off at an hour. It's close to an hour.
Oh, see? Yeah. Right? It's so much. Like, it's so many components of it, right? So that's my reason. That's my reason for why I still want to, because I think culturally competent healthcare should be a right. It continues to be a privilege. And I don't think that's right.
100%. Lastly, I want to touch on the fact that Walgreens now is in partnership with many of the pharmacy schools. And so let me read a little bit about kind of why they think that this is necessary. Oh, shoot. I had it like right in front of me. Okay, so hold on. Oh my gosh, I had it. Oh, I moved it. That's why. Okay. So right here, this is an article from Pharmacy Times, and it talks about I'll just read it out loud here. Walgreens, the second largest pharmacy chain in the US, is now hoping to reverse the trend of low enrollments, basically. This week, it launched Walgreens Dean's Advisory Council, partnering with the deans of 17 pharmacy schools. The council's goal include improving job satisfaction among current pharmacists, increase interest in the profession, particularly community pharmacy, and advocating for greater scope of practice so that pharmacists are doing more of the patient-focused work that they enjoy. Applications to pharmacy school decreased 22% year over year during 2022 to 2023 application cycle and have declined 60% over the last decade. And as applications have fallen, acceptance rates have shot up. Yikes.
Oh, wow.
And as applications have fallen, acceptance rates have shot up. The number of pharmacy programs ballooned during the early 2000s, increasing 79% between 2000 and 2020. And now those schools are struggling to fill spots.
Yes.
I mean, if you're not doing things for the right reasons and it's a greedy thing.
Everybody just saw a college of pharmacy as a way to make money. And another move the AMA made, they limit the number of colleges of medicine or schools of medicine that can be open. And we don't have no such rule in pharmacy. So everybody who had the money went and opened one.
So while only 1/3 of applicants were accepted to a pharmacy program in 2004, by 2020, nearly 87% were.
Yeah.
So today's students, meanwhile, want to have bigger impact on patient care, help improve outcomes. And so that is the whole goal of Walgreens partnering with these pharmacy schools, is to help improve some of those quality issues that we're talking about in the profession. Yikes.
I don't know. I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted
Me too.
I'm conflicted about what this could mean. Because I don't know if more of us, I know that my friend has told me there's a shortage coming. But is this the era where we want to pivot back to getting more pharmacists, or put our energy into improving the conditions within the profession? Like,
I think we have to do both at the same time, but I think one feeds into the other. So if you put a lot of effort into improving the pharmacy profession and making it a profession that is worth people's time and money and energy, then I don't think you're going to have to go out there and be promoting the profession as much.
And that's what I'm saying, right? I'm saying, like, if we get more right with elevating the image of the profession through actual advocacy that improves the work condition, the work of recruitment kind of gets done for it. It happens organically on its own without all this active work that is currently happening, like an official partnership that has to be a press released and
100%.
shared.
I guess we'll see.
No, like,
the
final word for me on this issue is, if you are a Black or brown person, healthcare, and I'm not advocating for pharmacy exclusively here. If you're a Black or brown person, healthcare is still a place that you should strongly consider getting into, because it continues to be a place where your cultural competency and how you deliver care really and truly can make a difference. That's my my commercial. But I'm advocating for healthcare. So I don't know if I'm being bad by not exclusively saying you should go into pharmacy, because I will choose pharmacy again 10,000 times over. It has not, the good has outweighed the bad for me exponentially. It continues to give me more and more and more reason to show up in it and do things to improve it. But I know that it's a debate right now, but for Black and brown people, healthcare is still a good place for you. I hope you choose pharmacy, but that's my final word on the issue.
I agree with that. Just those decisions don't make lightly, and do your research, talk to different people. It is a fulfilling career. Like, you can feel like you've really made an impact. I mean, I think back in what it means to be a healthcare provider, and I speak very highly of healthcare providers, because at the end of the day, like, what we do impacts the world, and what we do matters, and we bring value to other people's lives. So it's a significant career, but it also comes with a lot of stress, and also comes with a lot of responsibilities. And it's not as simple as just, being a healthcare provider. So choose all of that wisely. But I think that's the episode for today. Oh my gosh. Way to just show our passion and get fired up about things. But it's great. I love it though.
I do too. I don't think that anything was said here that was like inflammatory. I don't think so. I think that we are responding to years of a culture and a tradition that has allowed and made space for what we are seeing in our profession. We are responding to that. And I don't think we've said anything here that is to discourage anyone from considering pharmacy as a profession. My position on it is clear. I would recommend it to anyone who's looking to make a difference and cares about the people component of healthcare. But that is our episode.
You're right. There are people who would say, don't go into pharmacy school. Like,
they will straight up tell you,
they will completely say that. And, I hope that people do listen to this episode and understand the struggles behind it, but also see how passionate we are. Like, we wouldn't be passionate about it if we didn't care about it and we didn't enjoy it, right?
Absolutely not. And
so
my position stands. The future, I think, is bright.
Okay.
Thu is like, and that's where we go left. That's where I go this way and you go that way.
I still need to be, persuaded, but I could be persuaded. So no, it's not as bleak as you think, but thank you so much though for listening to us talk about this and letting us kind of vent a little bit. I mean, this is a little bit of a venting session because we've released a lot of frustrations that we've held over the years. But thank you again for listening. And this episode, if it does speak to you, please make sure you share it because we're trying to spread the message. We are advocating for this profession, and that means advocating for change. And if we don't talk about the things that we want to see different, then we wouldn't be doing what we're wanting to do, is make those positive changes in the profession, right? So please send and share this story with other people. This is how we're gonna get our word out, the message out, and this is how people are gonna find us.
We are this episode, and I believe by this time it would be about 13 or 14 others, right?
A lot. There's a lot of us now.
Look at us go. Look at us go. All of it. This episode and over a dozen episodes are all available for you on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can connect with both Thu and I on all of the social media platforms, handles for which will be linked to this episode below. Again, just thanking you for the support. Your reviews, your comments, your messages, your likes and shares go a really, really long way in helping us get our voices out there and helping us build this community that is ours for us to do whatever we want with it. And at the end of the day, until next time, y'all, we got this. We got this.
Bye, everybody.